today I'm going to be taking you along on the process of making my journal that I'll be using for the Junk Journal July challenge. But I have a slight confession in that I didn't press record clearly when I started making this journal, so I'm just showing you where I was up to before I realised that the camera wasn't rolling. So the cover, I've literally just used some cardboard. It's almost like not thick cardboard, maybe like cereal box thickness, so it's a little bit sturdy for my cover. And then I've started working with that massive pile of papers that you just saw there. It was literally taking over my desk. I had no room at all. You'll just see this stuff everywhere, and that always happens when I decide that I'm making a journal, because I just bring out like absolutely everything, and I know that I won't use it all because I make small journals anyway. So I just like to have the choice, and when I'm picking out from my stash the things I want to use, I'm thinking about like the different colours and the different textures and papers that will work together. So for this journal, I've gone for a really neutral theme, and then I've just done some pops of pink and a couple of other colours, but I've left it really plain intentionally so that it gives me the space to then work on the pages as I go through the prompts, but in a way that I have something to respond to still, if that makes sense. So there's just that balance between it being plain but also interesting enough that I can do something with it when it comes to working on the page. And I chose the pink because it's the colour scheme for this year's Junk Journal July. So if you haven't seen the announcement of the prompts, of the collaboration, of all the fun things going on, I will leave all the information that you need to know down below. So I'll leave the link to the announcement video where I go through everything that's going on, because there's a lot happening, but it's a really fun and exciting community event and I love running it. And I'd love for you to join us. There's a prompt each day throughout the month. I'll pop the prompt list here up on the screen just so you can get a bit of a flavour of what goes on throughout the month. And so I'll be working in this journal all throughout July. So the style that I've gone for is the no-sew accordion journal, which I've done a few times now, and I absolutely love this style because it's so forgiving. Like, you don't have to bind a book in the traditional sense. You don't have to worry about the stress on the spine. You can use up all of your scraps. You can make it whichever size you want. You can have the fun patchwork pages. You can also include an envelope there as part of the page like I've just done. There's just so much freedom, I think, with the no-sew. You can work on both sides of the page. You don't have the like dreaded bulk and the hump almost when you're working on the left-hand side, because the journal will just lay flat. It's just really easy to work with because you can just lay it out on your desk and work on the page that you want to. And if you find yourself running out of space but you don't want to tip something in, you can even just take your scissors to your journal when you're halfway through, cut it in half and extend it and add some pages. So it's just such a fun format, and I know a lot of you have said you've already made your no-sew journals ready to go, but if you haven't made your journal yet, don't worry, it's not too late. You can still join in with all of the fun. So the papers that I'm using within this journal, I've got a real mix of book papers and tea dye papers. I've got these jelly printed brown papers, as you see here, all different like scraps and things that I've been, I want to say collecting, but maybe the word is hoarding. And journals like this are just a really good way for scrap busting and getting through all of the different papers that we seem to accumulate. So there's a whole mix of different papers, and having all those textures I think is really interesting then for the prompts, because I have something to respond to, like I was saying before. And the patchwork effect is also just a really great way to think about the compositions sometimes of your page, because you can just ignore it and work on it like as you would a normal page. Or sometimes when I get to a page and there's a patchwork in like a particular way, it kind of influences the way that I lay things out on the page. You know, I might focus on one corner and cluster things, or there might be a particular piece where I don't want to completely cover it up with something, so I'll work around it. So I'm just really looking forward to working within this journal and seeing how it all comes together. So, like with previous challenges, I will be sharing each day a video showing you how I've responded to the prompt for that day. I'm even using a journal card here. So I had this collection of journal cards that I must have made, I don't even know, like a year, 2 years ago, and I never did anything with them. So I pulled them out my stash and I thought, right, it's time to use them because they're just laying around doing nothing. So if you're like me and you have like ephemera that's just like prepped and ready to go, but you haven't actually done anything with it, maybe incorporate it into some of the pages of your journal. So you can see there that it works kind of as a pre-done little patchwork page. And it matches the colour scheme that I've got going on as well, so it doesn't clash with anything. And I just really love all of the tones that I've got going on here. So this is just a paper bag that I did some jelly printing on. And the thing I do with my no-sew journals as well, you'll notice, is that I try to vary the paper size. So I'll use some larger pieces like the brown paper, and this book page here I'm just using the entire sheet. But then I will also come in with smaller pieces if it's like a gap that I need to fill, or I'm just wanting to do a bit of like contrasting and add some interest. So you can see here this is a smaller piece that I'm adding, so the book page wasn't wide enough to be like a full page with the size of the journal that I'm making, so I almost used that extra bit as a way to extend. And then here what I'm doing is I'm actually using one of my little paper scraps almost as like a connector, so I was overlapping it and having the pages joined together in that way. And here as well, I've also just got a brown sticker, like a label, that I used as a way of attaching as well. You could also use washi tape for this if you want to reinforce some of the pages, because I just used a glue stick to connect them. But if you want a bit of extra like security on like the folds, especially depending on the types of papers that you're using, you can use a little bit of clear tape if you don't want to see it, or you could also use washi tape, or you could even staple it. I did a few staples throughout this journal just to reinforce things, and normally they just get covered up by different bits of collage. And if they don't, then I just sort of leave them. And personally, I don't mind the look of staples within my journals, so that's just something that I will leave in as, I guess, a bit of a textural like feature on the page. I think it almost matches the junk journal-esque vibe that we're going for with these. Like, there's no perfection here. I'm not measuring anything, as you can see. I'm just eyeballing it. And that's the way that I prefer to work. You'll rarely see me get out a ruler to measure anything. I'll either eyeball it, or I'll pick a way of doing something that doesn't require that in the first place, because I just can't be doing with it. When I want to just make something, having all the like measurements and numbers is just not something that I enjoy. It just really stresses me out. So I just like to have something that's a lot more organic, and even down to like the ripped edges that I do with things. Like, things aren't straight and even, it's all a bit wonky. But I think that's what gives it some charm. So let me know if you're the same. I mean, maybe you like to have everything precise and measured and everything like that, but I just kind of go with what I've got and using what I have as well, and just sort of leaning into that. And I think that's what I enjoy working with in my pages, and not having that perfection, because I think as well it just sort of relieves that pressure of needing everything to be absolutely precise and perfect when I make a page. Because if the base of this journal isn't absolutely pristine, then I don't have that pressure of creating in it, because it's already got that kind of rustic feel to it, if you will. So I don't feel afraid to use it. And I mean, it is just paper anyway, but having it all set up a bit like this, I just find it then really easy to actually start working within the journal as well. And oh, I love this little tag that I included. I thought it would be fun to have a tag as one of the elements that I've included within this journal. So I sort of lined it up at the top there. I left the string on it, and there's the little hole of the punch of the tag. I left that part too, and I think it's a really nice detail, and I'm looking forward to reaching that page of the journal to see how I'll use that. But once I'd done enough pages, or enough that I thought I might need, like I said, I can always add more. That's the joy of this type of journal. I then added my back cover, that cardboard, and I'm just filling in here some of the gaps where I realised I didn't have enough pieces of paper there. So you can see I'm just overlapping them there to make sure that I've got the seamless edges on all of the pages and everything's perfect to work on for this journal, or I mean perfect by my standards anyway. No holes in it, at least when I start, because I might end up cutting and punching some holes in it, but at least when I've got the finished base, as you can see here, I've got all of the patchwork pages, all of the different like textures and crinkly pages. I've got that little envelope there that I think will be fun, and I really enjoy the patchworky nature of a no-sew journal. And one of the fun things as well is that if you just work on this one side here, when you turn it over, it's almost a little bit of a surprise, because then you see how the papers have lined themselves up on the reverse, and you have a whole new side of the journal to work with. And depending on how you choose to fill the pages, you can kind of work with both sides. So say if you did some sewing, it would obviously show through on the opposite sides page, and so it's just a really fun little format to work in. Okay, so now we've reached the fun part. It's time to decorate the cover, and the fun with a no-sew journal is that you almost get two front covers because of the way that the journal works. So I'm using this printable here. So this is from the party pack that we have for Junk Journal July. The challenge is in collaboration with Get Messy, and so the lovely folks there have provided a free download, a printable for you to print out and use within your journals for this challenge. So I will leave the link down below to the sign up where you can access this free printable. And I'm absolutely obsessed with the different florals that we've got going on here. And obviously there's a bit of a pink theme again here, just to match the colour scheme for the whole event that we've got going on. So if you want to use these vintage images within your journal like I'm doing, then yeah, that will all be linked down below that you can access. So I'm just cutting out some of the ones that I want to use on the front cover here. Now I didn't use all of them, but I just wanted to have them cut out ready and see how I wanted to assemble them on the front cover. So the process of putting this front cover together, I went through a lot of different variations and like auditioning of different pieces, as you'll see when I'm going through here. So I was trying out different things, and I couldn't decide how I wanted the front cover to look. I was torn between how much like negative space to leave and which colours I wanted to have in different places. So you'll see me trying out a lot of different things here, and I just wanted to leave that in for you to see almost the process of putting it together, because it definitely wasn't like I just cut out the pieces and then immediately stuck them down. Like there's always this toing and froing of putting the pieces together, and I think sometimes when you see just like a picture of the finished article, it's easy to think that that's just how it came together. So you'll see here there's lots of different moving pieces around, taking them all off again and trying in different layouts before I glue them down. So yeah, I just wanted to show the real process here of me being indecisive basically, and it got to a point where I started moving things around so much, and I thought I've actually got to like just commit and glue things down. So I think, yes, whilst there's merit to trying different layouts and variations out, there's clearly also something to be said for just thinking, right, let me just glue this piece down, because largely speaking, once it's glued down, you then have to either cover it up, work with it, or just decide, yep, that's the layout that I'm going for. And so just committing here, gluing that corner piece down really helped me to start building properly the cover and seeing how it would all work out. And I actually really love the finished look of the front cover. So I decided to use the patterned pieces as a collage on the background, and then I came in just with some tea-dyed paper as my label almost on the front of the cover, like right on the center, and used that as the place to write my text. But I did really love this floral piece here, so I wanted to keep as much of that image as possible, but I've also incorporated there the torn edges of that pink piece, and I think that just helps when there was some like blockiness, it felt like, with some of the straight lines of that image, that it really helped to break it up a little bit but without detracting too much from the actual image.
Hello, Ramona. I can't shake the simplest feeling beyond the ghost. We stand on the opposite shore. Hello, Ramona. I reach through mysterious ceilings, my only hope. I look for the things I don't know. I stand alone. Show me where the ending goes. Honest, honestly don't. I should be the last to know. We're all in this. I stand alone. Show me where the ending goes. Honest, honestly don't. I should be the last to know. Hello, Ramona. I mistook you for a dream. The engine glows, and I guess you always seem to know. Hello, Ramona. I push back the serious feeling. The end's unknown. To get back the life I used to know.
So after some final corner rounding there, that is my finished cover and journal for the Junk Journal July challenge.